We can also focus our attention on what it means to have a healthy society. Here it is worth noting that books published after Reich discovered orgone energy, nearly half concern themselves with a healthy society and not the medical and scientific work as it applies to the individual. So here's a list of books available now in Italian, and you see such titles as Mass Psychology of Fascism, Sexual Revolution, This Little Man, The Murder of Christ, People in Trouble, and all of these books are concerned with societal issues, or what Reich calls scientific sociology. You also see this in parts of the functional organism character analysis. From the start, Reich emphasized that prevention of neuroses rather than its cure. The very last paper given in Freud's chambers in December 12, 1929 was on the topic of prophylaxis, prevention. And later in his life, he was fond of saying that if a tree grows up crooked, nothing can be done to straighten it out.
Expressive habits he called muscular and character-neurological armoring. Over the course of his career, he found that the somatic binding of emotion was possibly the most essential as part of emotional repression, and he developed strategies to address these directly. He was extremely problem-focused in his early training seminars and always tried to identify failures in the therapy process. At the time, classical analysis depended on dream analysis, word association, of the tongue, and analysis of resistances. It often took years to effect a cure, or often it seemed even too hard to come by a cure. Often an analyst avoided eliciting negative transference from the patient. There was often no way to analyze a patient's resistance process. So he developed these techniques that condensed the therapy process by identifying the defensive structures and addressing it persistently. This initial conceptual breakthrough in the psychoanalytic process allowed immediately more rapid gains to be made in the therapy process. Emotions and memories could be accessed in this process that were otherwise truly unreachable. A person's behaviors, their way of thinking, their physical posture, their shallow breathing all became material for the therapeutic process.
Armoring of the eyes may be the first element of armoring in infancy. Although one thinks of armor as developing in response to a trauma, very often the causes of early armor may be much more subtle or simply known. An infant may feel assaulted by a parent's hard eyes or dull eyes. They may be struggling with parental command not to cry. Armor, I would say, as with armor in general, often gets worse over time. And I have a question for you guys. How many people here are therapists to do therapy? Okay. Good, 30%. What I'm going to talk about just for a minute is why it's so important for therapists to have had their own successful treatment. I'll just make 2 points. Uno. As a clinician, you need to be able to see the patient clearly and deeply. And the patient needs to be able to see.
Qualche parola su chi era Reich e cos'è l'energia orgonica. Era uno psichiatra, allievo di Freud, che visse praticamente nella prima metà scorso. La sua vita si poteva in 2 periodi, il periodo europeo e il periodo americano. Quello che lo differenzia, le sue ricerche sono molto importanti, ma quello che lo differenzia non è che ha scoperto l'energia organica, l'ha riscoperto nel senso che questa energia vitale sono secoli che esiste, ma quello che conseguenza, anche se l'energia orgonomica, l'energia vitale o chi prana su altre voci, eccetera, è stata ipotizzata praticamente molti, ma nessuno, almeno per quanto ne sappiamo dal punto di vista scientifico, aveva dato gli strumenti per poterla utilizzare in modo valido, in modo efficace. Si è visto che ha proprietà terapeutiche e può agire in concentrazioni molto elevate di questa energia, possono produrre fenomeni che attualmente non sono noti, non sono immediatamente da quelli che la scienza tradizionale studia. L'energia orgonica, ma molto brevemente,
Charge around itself. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can get sick from using it. You get a big heavy charge, you can get trapped in your body, you don't drain it off, you don't know how to deal with that. It can be rather toxic. Some people go psychotic. We have all kinds of people today using, they're calling chembusters, and they have a psychosis about jet contrails are poison. And they want to use devices. They blame shape-shifting space aliens, or they blame the CIA, and it really goes wacky. Usually by the time I might approach somebody in government, or local or national government, and say we have a way that can help with a big wildfire or with a drought, usually they've been contacted by 10 or 20 of these people long before I ever did, and so they dismiss it. It's crazy. The other issue is people, they get that energy in the body and it just, it gives them more energy to clamp down with. And we've seen several people go off into reactionary political thinking. Their productivity as workers then collapses into nearly nothing. On the issue of atmospheric problems,
anxiety or pathological nature of parent-child relation, conflict, and misery of marriage, it is even possible that he will endure to bring about sexual reforms, but he will never touch upon the core of sexual misery. He might admire violent experiments, even imitate them perhaps, but he will never really conduct research in the field of sex economy. He will never comprehend religious ecstasy, nor have the least insight into fascist rationalism, because he lacks the most important fundamentals. He will of necessity adhere to
it's already a way. It will act for 10, 15, 20, depending on several factors. So the process is going on. It's like in the weather. This is similar to the weather. You initiate something, and but there comes a but, of course. If you leave it like this, some patient who has a low energy may be drained of energy. They may lose too much energy, because I found sometimes people are very tired after the dose. So now, again I need to run. I just go with I let the patient breathe very, very deeply, and just just with my hand, or I take a stone, just to close it, and then I do it. So you cannot breathe. You feel like a little bit of a hole inside the electromagnetic field. And it's not necessarily close, otherwise the person will be drained. Another possibility is to put him, especially if you have cancer patients, they are, you know, about cancer myopathy. Their energy many times very, very low. So it's very risky to take them energy out. So I have found first step was after the doorbuster put the immediately in the defibrillator to help them using the field again. And in very serious cases, I think I'm the first
Economy than in Europe, in that we can practice just like a doctor. We can write prescriptions, we can deliver in the hospital without a doctor being present. We have our own patients and so forth. So that's what I chose to do with my life. My mother, W.Reich, branched her life's work from Wilhelm Reich's work into more of a focus on infants, pregnant women, babies, young children, realizing that how we are affected by our birth and our early time with our mother affects what our personal character structure is through our whole life, and how if you could prevent so much of the character problems, the armoring, you wouldn't need as much therapy, things would be a lot better and easier to fix. So I think I absorb, like we do when we're a child and we're living with our parents, we absorb from them what they feel is important, and I became a nurse midwife. I work within the hospital system, and so I'm going to read a little bit from my text, which when I had to prepare this, I had like an identity crisis. And my crisis is, as I grow older, I see more and more that one's life is like a river or a path. And going back makes sense. When you look backwards, you say, that's why that happened. But when you're going forward, it doesn't sometimes make a lot of sense what's coming up.
To be in loving contact with their caregivers. It's also crucial for educational institutions to continue providing a loving, supportive environment for children to develop in a sex-positive, life-affirming way. Now, given what Reich saw as our deep-seated fear at the personal and societal levels, fear of freedom, of life, of sex, of pleasure, and the fact that the fear is transported across generations, how are we to imagine educating with and for self-regulation? Is this an impossibility? So, this section is called Education for Self-Regulation, the Impossibility of Education. As an educator who, quote, has been on the side of the child, as A.S. Neal would say, and who has toiled in the vineyards of child-centered, directed education for nearly 4 decades, I fear I am coming to the conclusion, maybe I'm having a midlife crisis like Renata, I fear I'm coming to the conclusion that education, especially formal education through schooling, cannot provide the venue for children's self-regulation and healthy character structure to develop. But certainly there have been many who have tried. I'd like to turn to the work of A.S. Neal, who maintained an important friendship with Reich for over 20 years, from 1936 when Neal met Reich in Norway. In the marvelous collection of the correspondence between the two, a record of a friendship, we can see that even though they were opposites in many ways.
Si parla anche di farmaci intelligenti, resta il fatto che forse a volte addirittura molte sofferenze che il malato oncologico sopporta sono spesso più dovute addirittura alla terapia che non alla malattia in se stessa. Dal punto di vista dell'oncologia tradizionale, la cellula cancerosa è considerata l'unico bersaglio dell'intervento terapeutico a causa della premessa meccanistica che essa sia la causa della malattia e che quindi vada aggredita e distrutta e che questo insorga e aggredisca un organismo per altri versi considerato sano a tutti gli effetti. Per cui individuare per esempio come si forma la cellula cancerosa è una cosa prioritaria che noi valuteremo. Una parola sull'enigma del processo canceroso. Quando si sviluppa un cancro, quindi non è corrente che una o più cellule apparentemente tranquille cominciano diciamo tra virgolette ad agitarsi. Le cellule si dividono rapidamente, attuano una vigorosa proliferazione formando la massa tumorale vera e propria e che le cellule cancerose
So if you're excited, someone say something. Yes, but stop it. Can you stop it for a minute? And that's
time goes on, the wheels of the blood cells start to grow little points at the edges and bions on the edge, and gradually go more and more pointed and more collapsed. Now, Reich writes of people, if I remember correctly in the cancer biography, with breakdown times of 2 and 3 minutes. When I've done it with my students, some people in this room here, you know, we've had, well, no breakdown even till 20 minutes. Now, this, to say, is my own blood, and I'm an old chap, let's face it. And I'm on medication for angina. I don't know whether that should affect the red blood cells. So I was a bit surprised at how quickly mine broke down. Can you start?
Or make it a I wouldn't say a hobby or something, but where in your life is space for except reading and attending conferences and dreaming of being part of everybody? And it's very little, very big things may happen. They change a lot of it. I'd say, oh yeah, I find out that I sometimes feel very lonely with it. And I'm a big fan of having dreams that may not come true. So I'll just tell you a very personal story that I recently found with me. I was never thinking big. I was, as many in our area, I studied medicine, I came to oral therapy, I opened a praxis, it's going very well, but
There is no proof. There are no authorities whatsoever. No president, no academy, court of law, Congress or Senate on this earth has the knowledge or power to decide what will be the knowledge of tomorrow. There is no use in trying to prove something that is unknown to someone who is ignorant of the unknown or fearful of expressing power. Only the good old rules of learning will eventually bring about understanding of what has invaded our earthly existence. In the introduction to Contact with Space, Dr. W.Reich asks what constitutes proof that some UFOs are the product of intelligences from somewhere other than Earth. Short of an actual sighting or contact experience, what constitutes proof for you? If we find a subject disturbing enough, we are capable of prejudging anything offered into evidence and discounting its value, no matter how many eyewitnesses affirm its reality, no matter how many photographs are taken, or how many relevant tests have been performed. A similar controversy now surrounds the issue of UFOs and the plausibility